Victor Wembanyama came into the league with unreal hype, the kind people only talk about once in a generation. This was supposed to be the guy who flips basketball upside down, the so-called alien ready to run the game. And now that championship dream just got snatched right out of his hands. And he's not sitting back quietly about it. You can see it all over him, plain as day. The Spurs really believed they were the better squad. They believed they earned that moment. They believed the title was theirs to take. Even with someone else celebrating and confetti dropping everywhere, when Wembanyama stood there looking like he was holding in something heavy. No speech needed, no interview required, just one message written all over his face. We should have won this. But this story doesn't stop at heartbreak, not even close. It turns way more intense, way more uncomfortable. Because this wasn't just about missed shots, tough defense, or pressure getting to a young player in his first finals run. What Wembanyama is pointing at, what the clips are showing, and what fans can't stop arguing about goes way deeper than that. We're talking referees, missed calls, fouls happening right in front of everybody, and somehow getting ignored like nothing happened. And there's one moment, one play, that has the entire basketball world heated, yelling, replaying it over and over while the officials acted like it never even existed. Stay locked in, because this isn't just a quick recap of bad calls. This is a full breakdown, piece by piece. The game itself, the foul trouble, the exact plays raising eyebrows everywhere. The moment Wemby was sitting right on the edge of suspension, and the uncomfortable truth about how his own performance played into all of it. This situation has layers, and every single one matters if you want to understand what really went down. Now, before jumping straight to the refs, because that part gets wild, you need the full picture of how this game unfolded. The controversy doesn't stand alone. It sits on top of a finals matchup the Spurs were in perfect position to win. Coming into this, San Antonio wasn't just happy to show up. The energy around that team was loud, confident, and different. This wasn't some underdog story, just grateful for a finals appearance. Wembanyama flipped the entire franchise in record time. One season removed from the lottery, and suddenly they're on the biggest stage in basketball. That kind of jump doesn't happen like this, not normally. It felt historic, and early in the series, Wemby was delivering everything they needed and more. The shot blocking looked unreal, like something out of a video game. The scoring, the versatility, it was all there, living up to every bit of hype people have been talking about for years. You could tell he'd been waiting for this moment his whole life. And when he got there, he didn't freeze up, but then things started shifting, and not just because of what was happening on the court. The Spurs were still fighting, still right there in it. Every possession mattered like crazy. Every stop felt huge, and the gap between winning and losing was razor thin. That's exactly what you expect in the finals, where every detail matters. Every whistle, every no call, every decision carries weight. And that's what makes what happened next so frustrating, because the fouls, or better said, the fouls that never got called, started stacking up in a way that didn't feel normal at all. This wasn't borderline stuff, not the kind you shrug off and move on. These were plays that, in any other game, would have had whistles blowing instantly. Now, let's get into the foul situation, because this is where things start getting uncomfortable for the league. Wembanyama was playing physical, no denying that. Long arms everywhere, aggressive defense, huge wingspan, making contact almost unavoidable when contesting shots in the paint. That's just part of his game. Nothing shocking there. But what didn't make sense was how that contact kept happening without any response from the officials. You could see it live, clear as day. The crowd reacted, players reacted, even commentators were hinting at it, and still nothing from the refs. Look, no game is ever going to be called perfectly. Every team, every fan base complains about officiating. That's just how it goes. But there's a difference between random miscalls and something that starts to look like a pattern. And here, that pattern was hard to ignore. When Wembanyama kept making contact that normally gets called again and again, and every time nothing happened, it changed the game just a little more. The Spurs got bolder, the physicality ramped up, and things started building towards something bigger, something ready to explode at any moment. But even with all that, none of those moments compared to what happened involving Jalen Brunson. This is the play everybody is talking about. If you've been anywhere near basketball online lately, you already know the clip. And if you haven't seen it yet, pay close attention because this is where everything really takes off. Jalen Brunson hits the floor, and this wasn't some normal basketball bump or a routine screen gone wrong. This wasn't one of those plays you see all game and forget about. Brunson goes down because Wembanyama trips him, plain, and Simi can run it back from every angle. Slow it down, zoom in, it's all there. The foot sticks out, the contact is made, and Brunson crashes to the court. Now, here's where it gets serious. The NBA rulebook is crystal clear about situations like this. When a player makes contact that's unnecessary or crosses the line of a normal basketball play, that's a flagrant foul. And tripping, that's literally listed as one of the actions that qualifies. There's no confusion there, no gray area to hide behind. But somehow no call was made. And that's not even the worst part. What really pushed this moment from a bad miss into something way more questionable is how it was handled after. This wasn't a blink, and you miss it play buried in the chaos. The moment happened, and instantly people reacted. Fans saw it, players saw it, social media blew up in real time. Clips started spreading everywhere. Analysts were breaking it down within minutes. People were tagging the NBA, demanding answers, asking how something this obvious gets ignored. And the officials, they moved like nothing happened at all. No review, no huddle, no second look, nothing. The game just kept rolling like that moment didn't exist. Then came the league's response, and it felt just as frustrating. The kind of vague, careful wording that sounds official but doesn't really say anything. The classic, we're aware, without actually explaining anything. And fans weren't buying it for a second because everybody watching picked up on the same thing immediately. This wasn't just a random miscall sitting by itself. This was a flagrant foul, the type that can carry real consequences, especially in a high-stakes finals game. And once you look at Wembanyama's situation at that exact moment, things start to feel a lot heavier. Let's talk about foul accumulation because this is where the pressure really kicks in. At the time of that Brunson trip, Wembanyama was already sitting dangerously close to suspension territory. The exact number was being debated, but the message from people tracking it closely was loud and clear. He was one foul away, just one. Think about that for a second. One whistle, one decision the refs clearly had the grounds to make, could have taken him out of the game completely. That's the difference between staying on the floor in the NBA Finals and watching everything from the sidelines, where no player ever wants to be. So, in that moment, with all that context, does that no call really feel like a simple mistake? Or does it start to feel like a decision that just happened to pro? That's the question everybody keeps asking. No need to jump to wild conclusions, but the facts are sitting right there. A play that fits the definition of a flagrant foul, involving a player right on the edge of suspension in a finals game where every possession matters, gets ignored. And nobody with authority has stepped up with a clear explanation. And the Brunson trip wasn't the end of it, not even close. Because there's another layer to this, and it involves the elbows. Throughout the game, there were multiple moments where Wembanyama's elbows made contact with defenders in ways that should have drawn whistles. Now, to be fair, with someone built like Wemby, not every elbow is intentional. The guy's wingspan is unreal, reaching into space most players can't even touch. But intent doesn't erase the rule. Contact is contact, and officials are supposed to call it the same way every time. But that didn't happen here. Elbow makes contact, no whistle. It happens again, still nothing. Meanwhile, on the other end, players were getting sent to the free throw line for way lighter contact. That contrast didn't go unnoticed. And this is where the frustration really builds up because now it's not just about missed calls, it's about imbalance. What's getting called on one side isn't matching what's being ignored on the other. And once that starts happening in a finals game, people aren't just questioning the calls anymore. They're questioning everything around them. It's about the fact that the officiating didn't feel balanced at all. The standards looked completely different depending on which side the contact was going. And if you're the Spurs in that moment, fighting in the finals, watching your star get away with contact while calls are hitting you on the other end, that messes with everything. That kind of situation doesn't just show up on the scoreboard. It hits your rotations, your defensive decisions, your confidence in how the game is supposed to be called. When players feel like the same rules aren't being applied equally, the game stops feeling clean. It turns into something tense, something frustrating, something nobody in charge seems ready to fully address. Wembanyama felt it, no question. The Spurs felt it too. And now that the finals are over, it's clear they're not just going to let this slide quietly. But here's where things get real, because this isn't just about backing Wemby or blaming the refs. The full story comes with an uncomfortable truth, and it needs to be said. Victor Wembanyama struggled in the finals. That's going to spark reactions, especially after everything we just laid out about the officiating. But both things can exist at the same time. When the biggest moments showed up, fourth quarters, clutch possessions, those stretches where superstars are expected to take control, Wemby didn't consistently take over. That's not an attack. That's just the reality of what played out on the court. Because when you look at the greatest players ever, they've all dealt with questionable officiating at some point. It's part of the history of the finals. But the elite players don't let that define the outcome. They adjust, they respond, and they make plays so dominant that no whistle can take it away. They rise above the noise and leave no doubt. And in this series, Wembanyama didn't do that often enough. That doesn't erase how talented he is, but it does show where he still has room to grow. There were shots that needed to fall and didn't. Defensive moments that slipped when they couldn't afford to. Plays where the pressure looked heavier than what he could carry right now. That's not shocking for a young player on this stage, but it's still part of the truth. And if the Spurs want to build on this run, they can't ignore that part. The missed chances weren't just random. They formed a pattern in the biggest moments. That pattern says a lot about where Wemby is today versus where he's trying to go. The potential is still sky high. No doubt about that. The trajectory still points up, but the finals exposed real gaps, things that even a once-in-a-generation talent is still working through. Now, let's be clear, none of that cancels out the officiating issues. Both sides of this can be true at the same time. The refs missed calls that could have shifted the game, and Wembanyama didn't hit his peak when it mattered most. That overlap is where this whole situation lives, and Wemby knows it too, which is what makes how he's reacting so interesting. The way he's carrying himself, the belief that the Spurs should have won, the comments about what happened, it all comes from a real place. He truly believes they were good enough. He believes the result wasn't set in stone. And honestly, when you look at everything, it's hard to completely dismiss that feeling. But at the same time, the final spotlight exposed parts of his game that teams are going to study, target, and challenge moving forward. That's what happens when you reach this level. The players who turn that kind of exposure into motivation, into fire, those are the ones who take the next step into greatness. The question now is which direction Wemby takes. Right now, the frustration is fresh. The feeling that something slipped away or was taken is still there. That's expected after a loss like this. But what defines him won't be the interviews or reactions right now. It's going to be what he does next over the next few seasons, how he responds when he gets back to this stage. Now, shifting back to the league, because there's a bigger issue sitting here. The NBA has a credibility problem when moments like this pile up, and this situation just put a spotlight on it. When you have a finals game where analysts, former players, coaches, and experienced voices are all questioning the officiating, that's not something you brush off with vague statements. People saw the Brunson trip. People saw the elbow contact. People understood the foul situation and what was at stake. And when a player sitting one call away from suspension seems to avoid consequences in moments where calls usually get made, that's not something that disappears with a quick response. That kind of situation sticks with fans. It raises real questions, and it puts pressure on the league to do more than just say the right words without actually explaining what happened. The NBA has been here before. No doubt about it. Officiating drama isn't new in this league. It goes way back, tied to some of the biggest finals moments ever. Some of those situations faded over time, got brushed off like nothing. Others, they stuck forever, changing how fans look at the game even years later. Where this one ends up depends on what the league does next. And right now, that silence is loud, and it's hurting trust more than helping anything because this situation hits different, especially when you look at who's at the center of it. Wembanyama isn't just another star venting frustration. This is the face of the future, the guy the NBA has been pushing heavily, the centerpiece of campaigns, the symbol of what's next for the league. And let's be real, the NBA has been dealing with shifting audiences, changing attention spans, and people questioning the product more than ever. So when that guy steps forward, even indirectly, and signals that something fell off, that's not a small issue. That shakes the whole image the league is trying to build, and fans are paying attention. Not just Spurs fans who are already heated, but casual viewers too. Those casual fans saw the clips. They saw the replays, the missed calls, the moments that didn't make sense. And now they're deciding how much trust they want to give moving forward. That's the part that really matters because the NBA has survived controversy before, sure. But every time it happens, it chips away at something that's hard to rebuild. Trust doesn't come back overnight. And right now, with endless entertainment options everywhere, people don't have to stay locked in if they feel something isn't right. Loyalty isn't automatic anymore. It's earned. And moments like this, they test that loyalty in a big way. So where does that leave Wembanyama? This is where it gets real because this moment might be the most important turning point of his career so far. Not the most painful, not the most shocking, but the most revealing. The finals stripped everything down. No more hype, no more projections, no more what he could be talk. It forced the reality of who he is right now into the spotlight. And right now, he's an incredible talent who's still learning how to handle the chaos that comes with being a superstar at the highest level. That environment is intense. The officiating inconsistency, that's part of it. Always has been. The pressure, the expectations, the constant spotlight, that's all part of the deal when you're that guy. And Wemby just experienced all of it at once on the biggest stage possible. That's not something you can simulate. You have to live it. Now, the question is simple. What does he do with it? Because this moment can go in two very different directions. If that frustration turns into motivation, into obsession, into a mindset where he sharpens every part of his game so much that no bad call can ever hold him back again, then this loss could end up being the best thing that ever happened to him. But if it stays frustration, if it turns into excuses, if it becomes a story he leans on instead of something he grows from, then the path looks very different and not nearly as powerful. The talent is still unreal. That hasn't changed at all. But talent alone has never been enough at the very top. And the finals made that crystal clear. And there's something else that needs to be said because too many people are jumping to extremes with this situation. The ones saying, Wemby choked, that's it, move on, are missing part of the story. And the ones claiming everything was scripted or controlled are also off track. Both sides are ignoring the full picture because the truth sits right in the middle. The officiating was bad, clearly bad in ways you can point to and break down. A player that close to suspension being involved in those missed calls, that matters. And at the same time, Wembanyama didn't play his best when his team needed it most. That matters too. You can't ignore one to push the other. Both are real. Both deserve to be acknowledged. Honestly, that's the reality Wemby is dealing with right now. He has to sort through what actually happened, what he's frustrated about, and what he's going to do differently next time. Because at the end of the day, the finals are over. The Spurs didn't win. The trophy is gone. And no amount of debate is changing that. Not the arguments about missed calls, not the breakdowns, not the theories. None of it rewrites the result. All that's left now is what comes next and how Wembanyama responds when he gets another shot at this stage. What changes the outcome next time? It comes down to one name, Wemby. What flips the whole conversation about officiating possibly shifting a series is him becoming so dominant that no call, no missed whistle, no controversy can even touch the result. What turns this from a year Wemby got robbed into the year Wemby figure it all out is completely on Victor Wembanyama. That's the reality. No way around it. Now, don't get it twisted. The NBA has questions to answer, big ones. The officiating crew from those games, they've got explaining to do. The league itself, its credibility, its relationship with fans, all of that is being looked at under a microscope right now because fans are paying attention and they're deciding how much trust they want to put into this. Competitive fairness isn't just a buzzword. It's the foundation of everything. And right now, That foundation feels shaky to a lot of people. But even with all that, the biggest question doesn't belong to the league. It belongs to one player. What does Victor Wembanyama do next? Because every missed call, every no call, every moment that looked off, all of it fades into the background if he comes back next season playing at a level nobody can deny. And on the flip side, if he doesn't rise to that level, then this moment turns into something much heavier. The finals didn't just expose officiating issues. They exposed where Wemby is right now compared to where he needs to be. And the team that can address both of those things honestly, without spin or excuses, that's the team that's going to be dangerous when June comes back around. Right now, Wemby believes they should have one. And maybe he's right. But belief alone doesn't bring home a championship. Performance does. Consistency does. Being so great that nobody can question the outcome, that's what does it. He's not fully there yet, but now that gap is clear for everyone to see. And based on how he's been talking, the energy he's showing, that fire sitting just under the surface, it feels like he's getting ready to turn that gap into a serious problem for the rest of the league. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think the NBA owes Wemby and the Spurs a real explanation? Or do you think his performance is the real story here? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's get into it. If you rocked with this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who needs to see it. And I'll catch you in the next one.